Welcome to the other side of addiction. This is Lori Warburton, your Lady in Red first responder. And usually Al Richards is here as well, but he had another podcast that he was attending today. And so I have invited another guest to speak with me today. And hopefully we can touch on some bases to uplift your world and to just give you some personal insight on some very, I just want to say uplifting information. So that's what this is about, is lifting others out of the darkness into the light. And so for today's topic, what I thought would be great to speak about is the keys that unlock doors to release chains and to help you become who you were meant to be. As I was thinking about this earlier today, I've had some certain instances that have happened over the past couple of weeks, and I'm sure we all can relate, but some things I wanted to touch base on was forgiveness of yourself and others, letting go of the past, becoming more successful in life, love, and relationships. You can start sleeping better at night, and you can have overall better health, spiritually, physically, and also mentally. And who doesn't need more of that? It's kind of like Red Bull, it gives you wings. But what I discovered in my eyes is it brings clarity, it brings you back to perspective, and allows you to move forward. So I just thought we could open that up a little bit, and by doing so, I wanted to give a personal example of forgiveness. And throughout my life, if you guys have been listening over the past couple of weeks, if not, I've been through quite a few experiences where I had to have forgiveness. But it starts with forgiveness of yourself. Now, that isn't always easy. I mean, we all have things that we go through with our family or personal experiences in work, or we just keep on living in the past, and it just doesn't let us move forward. After 6 years of sobriety, I was sitting there one day, and something came to my mind, and my mom passed away 11 years ago, and I think I mentioned that in the last podcast. And it was very hurtful to me. And when I first found out that my dad was seeing another woman just after 3 months of her passing, it was very hurtful to me. Because of that, and because also I look a lot like my mom, and I think I remind my dad's partner of my mom as well. I think we had this communication problem in some way, and we were misunderstanding each other. All along, I felt like I loved her and I forgave her, but all these years later, I was finding resentment. I was finding all these things, and finally I said to myself, hey, you know what? I think that I haven't completely forgiven this person. So I decided to take it upon myself to work through that, and how I do that is through prayer. I think I've mentioned that before. Anybody can pray, and however you need to do that. But I had to take a look within. Why am I feeling this way? So with that, I did start this process, and I must have prayed for 3 weeks or so and about the situation. And one day, out of the blue, I got a phone call from my stepmom, and she wanted to tell me how she loved me and how wonderful she thought I was doing, and how much she appreciated me and how proud she was of me. I didn't know where this came from, because she had never said those words to me. I felt like she was always condescending and rude and all these different things. So once I actually forgave and took it upon myself to understand that I was holding things in, that's where a new process began. So I just thought I'd start off with that because I think we all have situations where we feel, we haven't forgiven, and even with our children or whatever have you. I have a guest here, and I'd like him to introduce himself at this time.
My name is Mike Parkinson.
Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I know together we've kind of experienced a few things, and within our families, I know that you've lost a few people to addiction. We both have people who are in jail and prison and these kinds of things, and they don't exactly forgive us as parents or things like that. And we had a situation come up on Saturday where we had made an Easter basket, and my kids have never met Mike, and so we decided to go over and bring him an Easter basket, and because of my past, they're still living in the past, and I brought him over unannounced, and it didn't go over so well, and it was just an experience that we dealt with. So and I went through some hurtful situations over that, and but he really helped me through it, and I know he has some insight on certain views and things as well.
Yeah, addiction has been a big part of my life. My first wife was heavily into some, had a lot of addiction problems. Our marriage failed as a result of it. And I actually lost two brothers. One was 30, and then I lost my twin brother just a year ago from the same thing, from addiction. It is something that is real. It's something that's been a part of my life. My son has struggled with addiction for years. You talk about forgiveness, and he's been in and out of prison several times. And, I guess it's that you forgive, and then you forgive again, and then you forgive again in some cases. Because it's, remember the last time he was in for, 7-8 months. Said, I'm gonna do everything I need to do. Dad, just get me out. I'm gonna be a changed person, and blah blah blah. And get him out and bring him home, and within another month, we're kind of experiencing the same thing all over again. So it's something that I think what I've learned is just how to deal with it with boundaries, so that I'm a little more healthy while I'm going through it. It's not easy. It's not. It's difficult, and but you have to find a place, which is what I've had to do, is just find a place to where I can have boundaries, where I can be healthy in the chaos, so to speak. When you lose close family members to addiction, and it's something that changes you. It does. It changes so much about you, and you wish there was so much more you could have done. You kind of take some blame in certain ways. Like maybe you could have done more, or maybe you didn't do enough. But again, you got to forgive yourself that you're doing the best that you can, and you're living your life, and you're trying to be as healthy as you can. And I keep kind of using the term, you got to keep your boat in good condition. You can't keep bringing people in that are putting holes in your boat. And I used to let all the circumstances and everything of their situations kind of bring me down and keep me from maybe living a life that's more full and a life that's more happy. But I think the more that I focused on keeping my boat in good order, that even though it didn't change the outcomes for them, it did change the outcome for myself, and being a little bit more healthy during that time. And again, it's painful. It's anybody who's experienced the chaos of addiction and the chaos of being a part of that. And I think, you were talking about it a minute ago about your family members. They didn't know me, or they haven't met me. And so there's a lot of stuff that they're still packing around about all of that. And so I remember when they were, kind of giving you a hard time or whatever about a few different things. I'm just saying, look at the growth that you've experienced. I'm not a part of all that's been over the last 6, 7, 8 years, whatever. I just see the growth that you've had now and where you're at now and how you're living your life now, and that's inspiring, encouraging, and I think it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing and reaching out to help other people who might be experiencing some of that in their own life.
Thank you for saying that, Mike. You're such an inspiration to me as well, and I think touching on that is important, because when you invite positive people with like mindsets and those types of things into your life to uplift you, rather than keeping a foot in the past, keeping one in way far into the future, but you're not spending the time in today that you need. So we're all trying to be healthy and have boundaries and those types of things. Those are very, very important in life. I feel like my family is living in fear, a lot of the time. My son said to me, "Whoa, I always thought, what would happen if you had a relapse?" Or what would happen in the event of, she met someone. So here's the thing is, I live in fear at times because I kept my life on hold for all of that time in order to meet someone who I could present to my family instead of the life that I used to have, because that's not who I am anymore. And I've moved on past these things, but apparently it's become evident that people who have not gone through training, or who haven't taken a look inside at themselves, who don't really understand the part of being accountable for themselves, and which I have done. I mean, it's a lot to experience in families, and I just feel like we all need to have better communication. I think we spoke about that also in the last podcast, and try to let go of our anger, because I think on both sides,
for sure,
we have anger.
For sure, you did touch on fear. You said that there's fears on the addict's part, that they're experiencing, whether or not, like for my son, I think just being able to get out and handle all the life struggles and everything, being all that he needs to be in the world is probably a big fear of his. Big fear of mine is just the disrupt that comes with people who are struggling with that, and because they're not really themselves, when they're under the influence. They say things that aren't nice. They say things that, to try to, I say, to manipulate the situation to make you feel like you were the reason, that you were the cause of their personal experiences, or what they would say their failures. But I think one thing that's really helped me, I think, is just I've just looked back, and I've even told them, I said, maybe, and you've talked about a higher power and God and that in your life, and I think that who am I to judge whether or not that's not the path he's supposed to be on? That he may be touching some people. Maybe there'll be some experiences that he has, and some people that, he's going to be able to touch and influence as he goes through some of those experiences, like you. I mean, people probably would have liked to have taken all of your struggles away from you because it hurt the family and it hurt you. But, and here you are sitting in a position where you can now share your life experiences and maybe help somebody else that may be experiencing some of that, and just let them know that there is light on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
That there is out of adversity and heartache and pain, that there's some good things that could come out of it. So
I think one of the neatest things that have come out of that, I mean, I almost lost my son, and I did speak about that on a previous podcast. However, it's only been a year and a half ago. And so to them, like with me and where I've been at with things, it's 6-7 years down the line. But with them, it was just recent. And so they're still living in that, trying to get healthy and figure things out. And there's steps you can take to get healthier as you go along and to talk about things. I think that we live in a world where there's so many options and so many things and so many resources that we have. But one of the best resources I know and that has helped me to get healthy is to share my experience, strength, and hope with others. And once I began to open up about that, a whole bunch of new avenues keep opening up, new doors open up, and I keep reaching for higher levels and knowing that by that I'm saying reaching down, lifting up, feeling just hopeful, in life and positive and understanding my purpose. And this is part of my purpose, what I'm doing today. Al and I opening up this podcast and sharing that with people. And matter of fact, next week, he and I want to touch more base on our personal stories, because we want to have people come on the show that can give their stories and personal perspectives, but we want our audience to know where we come from too, and how we came to this point and what we're doing. And all I know is I keep learning and growing every day. You make a mistake, you know what, you dust yourself off, pick yourself up, and you go on. You don't hide it. You talk about it. You let it grow, and you start having positive people in your life. There's nothing wrong with walking away from things that are unhealthy, okay? Be it family members, friends, a job. I've had to do these things myself, and sometimes distancing yourself from that and bringing those positive things into your life can uplift you and reach you to where you need to be. And so, I'm grateful to know you, because you've been that for me,
Yeah, and I think that distancing, that it fluctuates, for me. With my son, there was times I was going, you can't come around.
Yeah.
I'm not really strong enough, really, to have you around. You know what I'm saying? So, I'll talk to you, but I'm not going to be the financial resource, and I'm not going to be, you have to handle some of that on your own until, like I said, I've experienced, the death of my brother, or you experience those types of things in your life, and then you have these other things that kind of come in and start. And I remember when he was when he wanted to get out of prison, I just told him, I said, I love you, son, but I'm just not sure I'm in a place strong enough to be able to bring in more chaos while I'm going through this. Mm-hmm. So it was okay for me to set that boundary, and to keep yourself strong in those situations. But I think over time, I think I keep coming back to forgiveness. You have to forgive, and then you have to forgive again sometimes, and then you may have to forgive again. And he came out this last time, and we're talking on the phone, and he's saying, I know I messed up again, and or whatever. And I'm just saying, the best thing is today's the first day of the rest of your life. Yeah, you made a mistake, but today is the first day of the rest of your life. So you're going to have to forgive yourself. I've forgiven you. Again, you have to keep forgiving and go, you didn't make the decisions I think would have been better for you. And as a result of making those decisions, you're having to have those consequences. But son, you're the one that's having those consequences.
Absolutely.
I'm not the one having those consequences for your decision. And
I think you touched base on a really good thing, is it's today is the first day of the rest of your life. And that's where, if you can learn how to focus on staying in the day. Today, there's only so many things you can deal with. If you're thinking about 3 months down the road, or what went wrong yesterday, or what's going to happen, if you stay in today and you make a list, you think, hey, what can I do? Even if it's one thing, even if you did one thing to better yourself that day, you woke up early, you made your bed, you reached out to another person, you told the truth. A lot of addicts have a hard time telling the truth, as my brother who's also in jail, I've let him in my home on and off over the past 5 years, and that taught me a lot, and it taught me boundaries, but I didn't learn those until the final year, where I said, I can't do this anymore because I'm enabling this person a little bit, even though I know what I know. I mean, sometimes when you're so personally involved, with a family member, and you love them so much and you just want them to get healthy, you want to do anything you can for them, but at some point you realize you are enabling, and then you have to set your boundaries. So it would kill me to have to tell him he needs to leave my home. He can no longer be here. He came with a big garbage bag full of stuff, and then I would have to set that outside of the door and say, you can no longer come back. And then he would go to the homeless shelter. Then I'd have to set a boundary. I'll come and meet with you once a week, and I'll see how your progress is going. And when we decide on that, then maybe we can move to the next step or what have you. But unfortunately, he ended up back in jail as well, no matter how hard I tried. So sometimes you just have to realize it's up to the individual. If they don't want help, if they're just, oh, I have a free place to live, oh, I have a phone, I have this comfortable spot, and my sister will just listen to me, or your son, or what have you, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's us that needs to, you're right, set those boundaries, and we need to get healthy too, right? So sometimes we need to learn how to deal with these things. Behind closed doors, I know I've cried a lot. People don't see that. He goes away and I cry. No one else in my family helps me with this. And sorry, on this show, some tears may be shed because, it's just really very open, honest communication that we have here, and that's why it's called Resilience Talk, and we're very grateful to be able to utilize this to help other people. So one thing I know is that when you start getting healthier and you start doing the next right things, I talked, one thing of my 5 points that I said is you will start sleeping better at night. Because when you have all of these things on your conscience, like maybe I should have done this, I could have done that, whatever it is, or if you feel like you've spoken anger or all that kind of stuff, you don't sleep so well. You toss, you turn, you do these things. But when you start like really communicating, opening up, getting outside help, learning how to do these things, you just start resting better at night.
I think a big part of that too is the anger part of it. When you're dealing with somebody who's in addiction and that type of thing, I'd notice that I'd be angry. I'd be angry because they didn't act a certain way or they didn't respond. And even this last time when he got out, and we went down his parole documents, and we said this and this and this. You're not supposed to do this. You signed it. You initialed it. This isn't what you're supposed to do. And within just a little bit, doing the very things that had signed off on his, you know what I mean? And I did, and I remember sitting back saying, this is your decision. You do realize that your freedom is at stake. And he said, yes, I do realize that. I go, you do realize that doing those things, your freedom is at stake. Yes, but he still kind of thought, I think maybe he was going to get around it, sidestep it, do something, and then the police show up and you watch him get handcuffed in your... But I remember that night when that happened, I kept myself from being more angry, like I told you so or whatever, It was just more, you knew what the consequences were. I love you, and I'm giving him a hug as he's getting handcuffed and walking out. Him knowing and me knowing that was his decision.
Absolutely, and that's exactly right. And you're listening to The Other Side of Addiction. And when we come back, we'll discuss a few more things. And we appreciate you guys listening out there. Thank you.
We at High Point Coffee are proud to sponsor the Other Side of Addiction podcast. If you've never heard of us, High Point is a warm and inviting little coffee house just on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood Road. Our shop has easy access drive-through, free Wi-Fi, and plenty of comfortable seating, with charging stations good for everything from studying, business meetings, or get-togethers with friends. We opened High Point's doors in November of 2007 and have been happily growing ever since. We love what we do and refer to our customers as family because that's the way you are treated here. We don't believe that anyone should walk away from our coffee house with anything less than a huge smile and a great cup of coffee. We have a full menu of options from hot lattes to top-of-the-line frappes and delicious smoothies. We are a family-oriented establishment with huge selection for kids and any non-coffee drinkers as well. We also have fresh, delicious pastries, homemade breakfast croissants, pretty much anything your heart desires. Come see us at High Point Coffee in West Jordan, on the corner of 7800 South and Redwood. We look forward to meeting you.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction with Lori Warburn, Al Richards, and my guest, Mike Parkinson's. Before we go any further, I would like to give a great shout out and thanks to our sponsor, High Point Coffee. High Point is a warm and inviting little coffee house. It's off of 7800 South and Redwood Road. Their shop has easy access drive-through, free Wi-Fi, and plenty of comfortable seating and charging stations. Also, they will treat you like family, and as soon as they get to know you, you walk through the door, they're going to know exactly what you want and make you feel so welcome. You won't want to go anywhere else to get your coffee. So we really, really appreciate that, and welcome back. So we've been talking a little bit about addictions, how to unlock doors and release chains that bind us sometimes in relationships and families, trying to stay out of the past and live for today, have healthy boundaries and all of those types of things. And so just wanted to reiterate some of the things that we had talked about previously. I know for me, one thing, I mentioned a little bit about some things that had happened just within the past couple of weeks that can happen to anybody or come up in families. But one thing that a good thing, so there's tragedies, there's things that happen, there's hurts, there's all these different things. But I've noticed through the tragedies, always something good comes out of that. And one thing is, above all, even though my family and I had a little setback or something, we always seem to come back around and we learn a healthy tool from that. One thing that my son and I used, I have 2 sons. With one son, he felt better communicating to me through email. When someone has been drinking or using, as Mike had brought up previously, you cannot talk to that person in a healthy manner. No matter what you say is going to be taken wrong. You're going to say things you don't mean. I brought up my 3-day rule in a previous podcast. You'll be able to listen to that. So you have to find your niche in the way that you communicating healthy is very important. When I had the mishap with my son, bringing an uninvited guest over to the house that I didn't know was going to spar something from my past, fortunately, the next day, he realized he overreacted. And he reached out to me and said, "Mom, I'm really sorry. I love you. I overreacted." And so immediately I was grateful for that, because we're learning tools. They don't happen overnight. You have to grow. I like to call it grow, not go through the experiences. And when you do that, you actually learn how to communicate with different styles of situations that are going on. Anger is... When you're angry, you shouldn't communicate with someone at the time. You should just try to love them through it. Try to realize that you're upset right now, and the best thing to do maybe is just to take a walk, or go upstairs or do whatever you need to do. But anyway, I have been dealing with these personal experiences for, like I said, 6 or 7 years now, and I've learned a lot over that time and learned a lot about people. And generally, they're trying to tell you something, and they want so badly to be accepted by their family members. I think one thing, Mike, I heard your son say one day was, I'm always setting myself up to fail, or I always feel like to you I'm failing. And sometimes that's a cop-out, we think, but I think it's a genuine, real feeling that, like with me, being worried about, what my family may think all these years later, me not repeating the same behaviors or whatever that I had then, because my life was completely different, right? And so I think that's a real emotion that we feel and experience, and so it's good to get these things out there, because I'm sure I don't think there's one family that isn't affected by this disease, and I just want to make sure that people can be brought to the light, and by these conversations and being willing to open up about difficult topics and to be real about it, is very important. So.
Yeah, for sure. I just think that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to get better. You're trying to get, there's on either side, there's weaknesses. And I had plenty on my own side. Maybe my addiction was being angry, acting out, thinking that I'm always right, those types of things. And I think that some of the resolve and some of the latest situations that we've had with my son is that that first and foremost, they need to know that you do love them.
Absolutely.
That you do want them to be healthy. You do want them to be successful. You do want the best for them. Me responding in anger, like I told you so, didn't go over very well most of the time. In fact, all it did was a release for me, but it didn't do any good for him. And so I think that's one thing that I've learned more is just to deal with my own, handle it differently on my side, because if you handle something differently on your side, then you're probably going to have an entirely different result. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to keep repeating the patterns over and over and over, like, well, I'm this way because you're that way, and you're that way because I'm that way, and so on and so forth. So I just think that how I'm dealing with it right now is he is in prison right now, and I do take his calls. I do tell him I love him. I do tell him I care about him. I do tell him that I'm here for him. I think there's just some comfort, I think, in that, in maybe a person that's experiencing those types of trials and stuff in their own life, just to know that that we do care about them, and that we do love them, and that we do want the very best for them. And
absolutely. And I also feel for us on the other side of that is where we feel better knowing that they're not out there on the street somewhere. You know what I mean? They're not out there using, they're not abusing, they're not going through these things. They're there. Yes, they may not like it, but it's a comfort to us knowing they're safe.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's important to realize for me. You know, we didn't fail in giving them, you know, a safety zone or things we were trying to provide for them. And that can be something, if you wanted to put that in your mind, you know, that you somehow as a parent or as a sister, like with me and my brother, you know, that I failed and now he's in prison. No, we tried to provide, and I'm thankful that my brother is healthy, safe, and alive. You know, so I've learned those things as well, and I think that means a lot when we pick up and answer the phone. My brother's written me 4 or 5 letters. I waited a little bit, and then I finally wrote him back. You know, and that feels good too. You know, I just I think throughout all of this experience that I've had with my family and going through this, is people out there, if you could think about this and you're going through this is a family problem. You know, it's not just the addict causing a problem. It's a family problem, and we all need to learn to come together to realize how to be better, and how to solve things, and how to grow together and love each other through the painful times. You know, I have several circumstances and instances and all this, but one thing, when someone is trying to get better, the worst thing you can do is keep throwing up what they've done in the past. You know, just keep throwing that at them, throwing it at them. There's other solutions than doing that. They already know deep down inside all the errors they've made, all the mistakes, and we are all our worst critic. And so what I would like to do is try to, you know, put myself in their shoes, or like how I feel when I make a mistake now. Like, it could be just as simple as, oh, I got angry at somebody, I wish I wouldn't have done that, and how I beat myself up. But think of how, like, the addict or alcoholic feels when they're not wanting to disappoint anybody anymore. So there's a fear of success and a fear of failure. There's 2 sides to that coin, And I learned that while I was going through my process. You're scared of success. What if I succeed and then I make a mistake or I fail, or just failing altogether, you know? And so, yeah, I just think it's important that you stay on the upside of things. You try to keep everything as positive as possible. Reach out for outside help. There's lots of places you can get that. And have like a family intervention and talk about things before you approach the person, or what have you, or whoever you're dealing with. So
Yeah, I think for me, I thought, instead of, I stopped looking at I was the superior one in the situation and I could point out all of the faults and all of the mistakes, right? But it's pretty empowering when you can look at your own self and say, how am I going to get better in this situation?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
How am I going to change and communicate differently? And I think that just even the fact that, my last letter to him in prison was just more of that I just want him to know I care about him, I love him, and that today is the first day of the rest of his life. And so if he can make some of those changes, but I'm just bringing that back into my own life too, is what am I doing today? And I think just the mere fact that you take the anger out of it and the judgment out of it and all those types of things, and just kind of just let it be what it is. Just let it be. He's making the mistakes. We all make mistakes. But just let him do it, and then let him kind of handle the consequences of it. It's pretty freeing, and it's pretty empowering, and it does allow you to live life with a little bit more peace while you're in the chaos.
Absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned peace, because literally throughout my life, I didn't have a whole lot of peace. And now that I do, it's probably the number one thing that I enjoy about all that I've learned throughout my adversity in my life, and it's allowed me to, at first, it's kind of interesting, because I'm going to bring this point up with addiction or anything like that, or abuse or these types of things. I think you get addicted to the abuse, to the chaos, to all of these things. And then when you start finding peace and you're sitting there and you're going, I'm like, what is this? I'm not quite sure what to do with all of this. But each little step you take, just one little baby step, you don't have to do these leaps and bounds and these great things in order to find peace. It's a day at a time, a step at a time. There's so many things you can do to try to better yourself, and I think it's important to really listen to what's not being said as well. You're going to have opinions from everybody. The thing I like to say is, it's none of your business what anybody else thinks about you. Put that into your mind, into your mindset, and work with your family, grow within yourself, but don't allow yourself to be abused on any level. I did that a lot. Like I allowed abuse in my life because I wanted love and acceptance, or whatever, however you want to say that. But now to me, those things are unacceptable, and so, you might have something where you're feeling really troubled, and you're feeling like you're being taken advantage of, or you're feeling these certain ways and you can't talk to anybody about it. That's why we're here on this podcast, is to help people grow and to know the first step is to reach out and talk to somebody and ask for help. And I promise you, your weaknesses become your strengths. They always do. Every weakness I ever had has now become my strength. And it's so important to know that your worth, everybody is worth everything. You know what I mean? You don't let anybody tell you you're not. And yeah, there's just lots and lots of things that happen in life that bring you down. And I, for one, I'm not going to stay down. I'm going to be like the Red Bull and let it give me wings and fly it with the eagles instead of walking around with the turkeys, you know? Because
I like that.
yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic show. I have been so thankful to be here these past couple of weeks. Excited to see what comes around on our next broadcast, where Al and I will be talking about our own personal stories, so you can get to know us a little bit better as your hosts here. And I'd like to thank Mike Parkinson for coming on and being able to talk to us openly and freely about his personal interactions with addictions and learning how to be better. Any final thoughts today, Mike?
No, I just think that to forgive yourself, whatever side of the addiction that you are on, just be forgiving of yourself, be more tolerant, be more tolerant of each other, and then just be there for each other the best that you can. Bring your best game that you can each and every day, and then just take each day as it comes, and things do get better. Things do get better. If you get better and you bring more peace in your own life, things are going to be better because you're going to be living life with more peace. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you. Those are some lovely final thoughts. And anyway, this show airs every Monday at 4 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time on Resilience Talk Network at www.resilienttalknetwork.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It's all there. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody again. And remember, we are pulling people out of the darkness into the light. And please, please, please keep yourselves healthy, happy, and remain positive. And reach out for help if you need it. Give us a call.